Good afternoon. My name is Emiliano Huesca Jr., and I'm Luis's brother. So, this is a note I wrote for my brother. You will always be my best friend. I always looked up to you because you were wise for my age, for your age. Even though you were the younger brother, I would always come up to you for advice because you had so much wisdom and I could always trust on your advice. You're my travel buddy. And you and me were always trying to go to places to explore the world. One of the things that I really love about my brother is that what he taught me was to be curious. Luis would sometimes take me to the most random places around the United States or outside of here. And he would be like, let's go to this. He would look at maps and he would be like, let's go to this place and let's see if we can find something interesting. And me being scared that we're like going in remote places without any cell signal or anything, I always thought like, oh my goodness, what happens if we get lost or whatnot? But Luis always knew how to find a way. And Luis was always brave to go into the forest. I remember we went to a time when we went to a forest in Utah and we saw the back of an animal. We didn't know if it was a puma or not, but we still went ahead and let's go. Aside from traveling together and talking, one thing about Luis is that he was a really well-rounded person. Our topics ranged from dinosaurs. We will start by talking about dinosaurs and then talk about genetics, and somewhat he will tell me about how he's learning this new song on piano that he was learning because he was really good at learning how to play by ear. Also, at the end, our conversation, we have no clue how we ended up, but our conversations then will end with like talking about the geopolitics of Europe. Lisa's really well-rounded but he taught me to be curious, and I was always excited to learn something new so I can share with my brother Luis. Another thing that you taught me was courage. I remember one time telling you how proud I was. One time we were driving through North Africa, and then an accident happened right in front of us. The first thing that Luis did is he traded badges with some of the Moroccan cops, and he put a Moroccan badge on, and right away just went to attend the lady that fell from her motorcycle. Afterwards, he started delegating the most he could with his broken Arabic, telling people, can you get water? Can you get the towel to rest the lady's head? And then after the situation was under control, he started directing traffic. So even though he was not in Chicago, he was still doing like his duty as a police officer over there. And I was like nervous the whole time, but I was just so proud how he was delegating. I was so proud that he was my brother. Like I've never in a million years. Luis was there, and we waited till the ambulance came, and Luis was explaining the whole story to the officers, even though most likely they didn't understand them or they barely understood what he was trying to say, you know? But Luis also taught me selflessness, because you always put he always put others first. An example, he took so much pride in taking care of my mother, and he took so much pride in us. He had dedication for us, our siblings. He would always drive. One time, believe it or not, he drove all the way to California with his dirt bike. From Illinois, took some parts of the Route 66 and drove all the way to California. And by the time he came to Arizona, where I met him up, he was so cramped up and in a hunch position from being on his dirt bike for the longest time. But Luis had dedication for his family, for his nieces, and his nephew. He really loved them, you know? So For Luis, your nickname should be Lionheart. You were an exceptional person with courage, bravery, humility, and pride in your work. And you had dedication for those you touched. Rest in peace, my brother. And I love you. Siempre te amaré, mi hermano. Y siempre te entendré. I'll have you in my heart, okay?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Karim Ismat, and Luis was one of my best friends. When Emilio asked me to say a few words about Luis, I was both honored and overwhelmed. How does one do justice by someone as admirable and gracious as Luis? My words could never capture his unshakable spirit, but I'll do my best to commemorate him. So when I first heard the tragic news, I really struggled to find sufficient words to describe him to those who didn't have the privilege of meeting him. But I kept returning to the phrase, he'd give the shirt off his back, because that's exactly who Luis was. He was the kind of man who would go out of his way to help others no matter what. And I think hearing all the stories from all the speakers before me, I'm sure you all know that already. Our friendship began in college nearly 10 years ago. And from the day we met, I knew I'd never lose him as a friend. He was relentlessly dependable and always ready for an adventure. At the time, I had recently immigrated to the USA, and I hadn't really explored much of the country. And on a whim, Luis just offered to invite me and another close friend of ours on a road trip along the historic Route 66. And we made stops along the way at national parks and landmarks, some known, others somehow discovered by Luis. I'll never forget how, upon our arrival to Los Angeles, both Emilio and Liliana welcomed us with open arms, and we got to spend time with both of them. And I even met Owen when he was just a little baby. As I reminisced some more the other day, my girlfriend reminded me of how Luis, upon meeting her, he always made her feel included and safe and comfortable. He invited her on our adventures. The more the merrier. Like, he just included everyone in the fold. We tried to remember all the many road trips we took with him, and while we couldn't remember every detail, what we could never forget is how Luis made us feel. Life with Luis felt timeless. He had a magical gift of turning the simplest aspects of life into joys. He really reminded us to stop and enjoy what this world has to offer, to appreciate the bits and pieces that are taken for granted. He prioritized what truly mattered, seizing each day and making the most of every passing moment. I'll cherish the lifelong memories he helped me create for the rest of my life. But Luis was also more than just a friend to me. He was family in the truest sense of the word. The kindness and care he put out into the world is a reflection of his loving upbringing. Edith, thank you. I admire Luis so much, and that's just a reflection of you and your love. When I met all of you, Luis's family, I felt like a son and a brother. And when Luis met my family, he also immediately became near to all our hearts. He left a lasting impression even on relatives that he met very, very briefly. When I told them the news, they're all like, oh my goodness, like Luis? And, people he's met once, for like 15 minutes to have tea. Our families really just became very close. We exchanged cultural heritage, introducing one another to food, music, and customs from our respective Mexican and Middle Eastern traditions. And after I moved out of state to continue my education, Luis really maintained a strong bond with my family. He visited my parents often. He befriended my brother and cousin who are here today, and he even traveled all the way to Boston just to catch up with me. It felt as though Luis had an infinite amount of love to give, garnering an ever-growing family. And I'm sure many of you here feel that today as well. I'd also like to highlight a very personal story today is that, when my father passed away due to COVID and I wasn't able to be here, Luis did not hesitate for a moment to help with every aspect of the funeral. It felt like he took my stead as a son, as though he was my brother. He supported my brother and my mother through that time. And he did not care one bit about the risk of exposure to the virus. He just wanted to be there for my family and for my father. I'll forever be grateful for his support to us through those most difficult times, and the least I could do is be there for him today. He was the rare type of person who ensured everyone else felt safe and supported before worrying about himself. And in the past week, with my anger at the grave injustice committed against my friend, I found myself irrationally thinking that if maybe he was just a little bit selfish, perhaps he would still be here today. But the sobering reality is that any of us could have been a victim of this horrific crime. While nothing could ever make up for Luis's unfathomable loss, I'm impatiently waiting for justice, and I will not feel any sense of closure until then. And I'm confident that, the CPD and everyone here today will serve that justice soon. I'm certain all who have met him will have little trouble remembering him for the brilliant, caring man he was. He truly was larger than life, and so much more than words could describe. Taken from us too soon, but never forgotten. My brother, mi hermano, achi, may your soul rest in peace.